Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today on the third edition of your APAC Talk Show. Today, we have the honor to have a excellent personality and professional in the Oracle community, author of many books, a mentor to many people in the IT, especially in the Oracle community, Rich Niemiec. Rich Niemiec, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Francisco and friends.
That's good. It's always an honor to talk to you, and you always supporting the many communities around the world, speaking in Oracle conferences, speaking on and meetups like you was just talking a few minutes before that you had one in a meetup
Chicago. Yeah,
after
Chicago.
so long.
Yep, in Chicago.
That's great. And for sure, we will have a lot of things to talk, and the people will have also a lot of questions to you. I will repeat this a few times during the session that you can use the chat in the YouTube or the Facebook Live if you're watching too, and ask questions to Rich at any moment too. We can show the questions live, and Rich will be able to also to answer them when possible. Rich, you have a very long career with Oracle. You was basically started with Oracle when they just the company started by itself, and for sure we'll have very many stories to count to everyone. But as being an inspiration to many people in IT, how was your experience when you started working with IT? And what brought it to work with computers in IT itself?
That's a great question, Francisco. And first of all, thanks for having me. I know you have a great following, and you are certainly a rare leader out there that runs these tremendous talks that are there. I guess I'd start by saying, I used to work for a company called Skidmore, Owings and Merrill. They built buildings such as the Sears Tower, John Hancock, the Burge Tower, basically the tallest buildings out there. And I was working there for a while, and they had gone to a project where they started to build floor by floor where they used a database. And it was a product called IBM Skyline. And not long after that, I met somebody on the streets of Chicago, just happened to run into somebody I knew, hadn't seen him in years, and he said, "You've got to come to this place called Oracle. These guys are unbelievable. They're out of control. You're perfect for the place." And I was like, "I'm perfect. Why am I perfect?" So I thought, okay, I'm going to go to this interview. He's telling me how great this company is. It's databases. I've been doing a little work with the beginning of databases. It's been a couple of years after Oracle went public in 1987. And so I, went in the bathroom to straighten my tie, washed my hands, dropped something on the floor, went to pick it up, and I split my pants from top to bottom. So there I am thinking, should I go to this interview or not? Think of what would have happened if I didn't. So I went to the supply room. I've got a bunch of binder clips to clip my pants together. But these things are very big and bulky, so it's a little uncomfortable. So I sat in that interview, and I got near the end of the interview, and it was the head of the Chicago office, and he says, you may be right, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think on it. I'm kind of squirming in my seat. And right then, one of the binder clips grabbed onto me, and I jumped out of my chair, and he jumped back. And I thought, what am I going to say at this point? And he's like, what? And I go, I want this job. And he said, okay, you got it. And that's kind of how I ended up at Oracle.
That's great, Ken. That's basically already took a little bit to my next question. It's something funny that, or in a good story that you remember when you started with Oracle, but that's basically already killed two questions in one. That's good.
I'll tell you,
But
I got a good
IT.
story. I got a good story for the first project I was on, which
Let's
was
go.
it was supposed to be the first client server project, but they said, if you have any problems, just call Oracle. we have a secret password that you give, and they're going to take care of you at Oracle support. And I thought, okay. So I call them up and I say, give them the secret password. And they're like, oh, you're Oracle consultant. Well, how come you can't figure out the problem? And I said, well, we're trying to build client server. We've got memory sticking out of the machine. We have fans blowing on the memory because it's overheating. The disk drive is 300 meg. It's the biggest one on earth, which is shaking the parts out of the machine. So we had to bolt it down. And we're trying to do client server and it's not working. And they're like, well, let me look at this. You should have figured this out. You're Oracle. And they look it up and they go, yeah, there's 3 guys in Chicago's doing that. Yeah. And I said, do you have anyone else besides them? And they're like, no. And I go, well, that's us. And guess what? It's not working. But eventually we got it working. And they were wondering why we needed an SGA over 1 meg. Why would you ever need that? I was like, we have 16 users, which was a lot. I don't know that I'm hearing you now. Francisco, can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, it was just to take myself off mute.
Sure, no problem.
No, yes, technology was very different back in that times. And how will you compare the technology on that times when we started an Oracle with the technology that we have today?
Obviously, the SGA is much larger than it was back then, but I look at it, it's so much faster. I think I measured it once, and it was roughly 65,000 times faster when we went to 32-bit and we got the internet. So 65,000 times faster when we went from 16 to 32. Right now, we're going to 64-bit. It's 300 trillion times faster than when we were at 32-bit. So when I look at it, it's very fast. If somebody's a DBA or a developer, I think the key in the future is machine learning. And if you look at this chart, I'm just going to show it briefly. But basically what it says is that most of a data science project is the data. 80% of the job in a machine learning project is managing the data. So if you're a DBA, you are the most important person in a machine learning project, which is where a lot of things are going.
Yep, I agree completely, especially that DBAs is always saying and comparing that, what we're going to do, the changes of technology, changing of this, but they need to understand that they have one thing that nobody have, even with the new technologies, knowledge of the business. And taking the data, as you mentioned, plus the knowledge of the business, they can apply both together with new technologies like machine learning, AI, and take advantage of that.
That's definitely correct.
Okay. One other question for you. If you could change one thing in your from your start to now of your career, it's something you will have. If you could go back and change it, do it.
I'll tell you. Once I was putting on a very new version of Oracle. It was barely production, and I literally had to keep recompiling the kernel, do some editing on it. And every time I got done, I'd go in the Oracle directory, do a remove -r. And then just one time I made a mistake. I was in the root directory and did a remove -r, -r, which recursively removes everything on the machine. It basically destroyed the whole machine. So if I could go back, I'd rather not do that. It cost me about, 6 or 8 hours. But also, I think I do more leadership talks on character. I know I did one. I've done one in China. I've done one in India. I've done many in the U.S. I remember being in India. I'm just looking at it on the other screen. I remember a great quote. The difference between what we do and what we're capable of doing, that would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. We just have to do our best. Nothing more than that. Or Nehru. I know I'm not going to say the name right. Jawaharlal Nehru. Success often comes to those who dare to act, seldom to the timid who are too afraid of the consequences. I look at character being, a key. how do you make a difference? You avoid distractions and also focus on character. And I'll tweet some of these things. You could look at them, but these are uncommon leader character traits. And this is the talk that I would do more of. I could look at these and just look at Francisco, and you're out there thinking, how can I be, great in this? How do I really make a difference? How can I do great things? Let's analyze Francisco. Does he have integrity? Yes. Is he honest? Always. Last week he was saying, hey, I got to be honest. We're not going to be able to do this. We got to move it by a week. Does he have knowledge? Incredible knowledge. But he's tactful in how he shares it. Is he unselfish? He's giving his time right now so that you guys can learn something new. Does he have physical courage? Maybe out there you don't know this. He's got 2 broken ribs today, so I got to be careful not to make him laugh. Yes, physical courage. Moral courage, yes. Always stands up for his peers and his team. Is he loyal? He is loyal to APAC beyond belief. Is he respectful? So much that he can get any speaker to speak for you. Does he have self-control? Last week when nothing was working, I didn't hear him saying, Rich, we got a problem, or yelling and screaming and going, I don't know what to do. He was under control. He's like, yeah, it looks like we're going to have to push this a week. It's just not working. I've tried everything. Is he humble? Yeah, he's a humble guy. Is he enthusiastic? Yes. You see it all the time. Does he take the initiative? Yes. That's why there is these talks that you're listening to now. But all of that character that you work on, if you add it all up, it's going to be your destiny. Because when you start thinking about things you want to improve on, is it my knowledge? Is it my loyalty? Is it my enthusiasm? Do I need to be more patient? Do I need to be more humble, tactful? Whatever it is, those thoughts will lead to better actions. Those actions will lead to habits. So I look at Francisco, the things he does, it's just a habit for him. It's like, I got 2 broken ribs. Oh, I got to go to bed. Rich, I can't do it. No. He just takes it on and he runs with it. So what would I give more talks on? I would give more talks on leadership and character. Character is the key to success. But also make sure you take care of yourself too, Francisco. So you gotta keep that balance as well.
Thank you so much. Now you made me blush.
as long as I don't make you laugh.
Oh yeah, I'm trying. Don't worry. It only hurts when I breathe.
Okay, don't breathe. No, okay.
No, it's all good. No, thank you so much, Rich. To know a little bit more about the person behind the professional, because everybody know Rich Niemiec, basically. The name pop up everywhere. If you put on Google, you get thousands of returns right there from books, presentations, white papers, interviews, you name it. And
sure.
What are your passions? What are your hobbies? What Rich Niemiec do when he's not in front of computer, a client, or something like that?
Wow, what do I do when I'm not in front of a computer? Well, I'll tell you, I grew up very poor, even on government assistance at times when I was younger. Also got a grant started by Lyndon Johnson that got me to college eventually. And all this, of course, led me to Oracle. I think some of the things, I was an electrical engineer from Purdue University. But what do I do when I'm not doing that? Because somebody took the time to make a difference in my life, I try to do something called St. Vincent de Paul. It's a group that helps the poor, worldwide organization, where St. Vincent, who was a priest maybe, 400 years ago, I probably should know the exact number, he would just help the poor. Because he said, I could at least give them a kind word. You may not even have to, give them a lot of food. Mother Teresa, think of how unselfish she was. She would say, peace begins with a smile. Start there. So I do a lot with St. Vincent de Paul. Cut trees down, a little bit of a lumberjack. I live on some forest land where I've cut, probably over 400 trees in the last couple of years, some 100 feet tall. And I can tell you this, if you're going to cut a tree, you better, watch some videos and get good at it, which I do, all the time when I go out there. I also used to be a fencer when I was younger. I fenced for Purdue University as well in the NCAAs. Won the Indiana State Championship for under 19, actually qualified for the Junior Olympics. But I couldn't afford to go. And that's why I try to still help other people. I mean, God gives us incredible gifts in our life. And, what can we do with those things? How do we take that something that's inside of you that about, you can do certain things, and how do we share that with the world and make a difference?
That's amazing. I didn't know about that part of philanthropic from Rich Niemiec. Is very good to know, and that's something that is says a lot about yourself too. Uh, we always try to give to others what we never had, and try to make the life easier, and it's fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations for everything you do, Rich.
Hey, I'm just paying back. You could never pay back the gifts God has given you in life. You just do the most to share them.
Sounds great. I'm just going to take also this opportunity to just say thanks also to the sponsors of APACOUC, CloudDB, Oracle, Como, the new platform being used by the communities for the events. The user groups, they are working together to the Asia Pacific, the Java user groups in Taiwan, Melbourne, as the Australian one in Sydney, the Japan Java user group, Nepal, the India Apex. We have uh, the Nepal user group, sorry, the Out China. As there are so many user groups that it's very hard to basically talk about them. But we have also New Zealand, Australia, Independent Australia, Singapore, South China, Japan user group, Korea user group. Thank you so much to all these user groups that together we are able to bring a little bit more of knowledge and share knowledge, because I always said for the past 20 years, knowledge is only valuable if it's shared. It's not good if you keep the knowledge only to yourself. Now I am the only one that know how to do this in the world. I will keep that secret with me, will die with me. Now I don't agree with that. I love when I see people like Rich going to events, sharing his knowledge, talk with his peers, and helping others with some of his experience in his projects. And then later, other people that he met will be able to help him to cut corners in projects with technologies he is not very, they have that much knowledge. That's when a community help each other. And that's why I think that's very important to everyone listening, to get involved with your community, participate in the forums, participate in meetups, and don't be afraid to speak and share your knowledge.
Sure.
And saying that, let's go to the next question, a simple one. Rick, what do you think, database, developer, or architect? What's Rich?
Probably all of the above. I mean, I started as a developer doing forms, Forms 2.0, even writing the INP before Forms 2.0, if anyone can remember that. Then I kind of moved more into the database and an architect. But when I look at those things, I remember tuning a system, and I was doing financials, I was doing ERP systems. And I sat down with Ken Jacobs, Dr. DBA, one time, and I said, I don't know how to keep up with being a developer and a DBA, and tuning things, or even, is very deep. And financials is like, Rich, you can't do all those things. You got to pick something. And so I spent more time in DBA more recently in the last 10, 15 years. But now I probably spent the last 5 years into machine learning. And I do a lot on machine learning. If you look at my tweets, you will see that I would guess about 70% of them are machine learning, and maybe 25% are the database anymore. And if you're not sure on machine learning, I mean, there's only this many algorithms. And as Francisco says, first, make sure you satisfy the business. But knowing which algorithm to use really falls under you know, first I had to learn autonomous database. Then I had to learn what algorithms are out there. Then I had to learn what's the business application of those algorithms, which one, should I be using? And then I looked at, what is the math behind that, which electrical engineering helped me that I was on. But when I look at things like machine learning and AI, I mean, it is the future. But you've got to start with, what's the business problem I'm trying to solve? Oh, I want to find a customer just like the one I have. Well, maybe I need to classify into good and bad customers. Once I know I want to classify, I know the business problem, I want more customers. I know the function, which is classify my current data into good and bad customers. Then I train the system on what a good customer is. Then I go out to big data and I use an algorithm, depending what it is, maybe a decision tree, maybe it's a support vector machine. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I use different algorithms to then see which one is the best one. And Oracle has auto machine learning now where it actually will find out which one's the best one. I have actually written, maybe I don't know, I think it was about a 40-page notebook, which is just a series of SQL and PL SQL. If you think of pages and pages, I had 40 pages of it to test different algorithms to see which one would classify the data best. And then I used Oracle's auto machine learning in 21C, and Oracle was able to build that same thing either in Python. They did it in Python, actually. They did it in 4 minutes, and they picked the same algorithm, which I thought was amazing. So, I mean, even the product itself is using machine learning to be faster. But that's where I am right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, that's good. And now it's challenging times to everyone. Learning new technologies, and that's the way to go. As you mentioned, we need now to be focused more in the data, and with that, we need to adapt and learn that all these new technologies, they will be helping we develop our careers and make your life more easier too.
Sure.
Yep. And now we already share a funny story with Oracle, a couple of them, but I know you have presented on many conferences around the world, and you have for sure you had some good and bad experiences or funny situations when traveling. Anything you can share with us?
Speaking, I think the hardest talk I ever did was I was doing a talk and I was moving the mouse and I had this giant glass of water that somebody had set nearby just to give me a glass of water. It was nice. And I'm looking at the screen, I moved the mouse and bam, water everywhere on the table. So I'm dragging the mouse through the water. It was still working back then. This is where I used the rollerball. It actually still worked. And so then I got up and I said, I better go to the slides, which were overhead slides. And the next slide was totally black because it had burned them when it copied them. So then I said, okay, we better go back to the PC and the slides here. I go back to the PC, I move the mouse, the guy had brought me another glass of water, and lo and behold, I dumped it again. But I've had a lot of great talks out there. I remember speaking in China multiple times in multiple places. I've spoken at the JUG, Japan Java User Group. I've spoken obviously in India, many different places of India, Bangalore, Mumbai, or do we say Bengaluru? And also, Australia multiple times, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sydney. I actually walked over the Sydney Bridge while I was there. Thought that was fun, which you can do. They chain you in. But I look at in my early days of being a DBA, things you do lead to your talks. I was once at Pepsi where they said, hey, we can't load. We just acquired Frito-Lay and we just acquired Pizza Hut. And we can't load the salary data. And they said, you got to come out here to New York or upstate New York. And I went there and I tried everything I could to tune it. This was in the early days. And I said, I can't do anything else. And the guy said, I'm going to be fired if I can't get this done. We won't be able to pay all these people. This is, tens of thousands of workers, maybe over 100,000 workers. And so I just started digging through the $V tables, found $V SQL area, found $V SQL, found the $BH, which is buffer headers for every block of memory. And I just started piecing together how Oracle parsed the SQL statement in the data dictionary. Now, this was all the way back in early version 7. Nobody knew about the $V SQL area back then. So I presented that at the International Oracle User Conference. And by the next year, everybody knew what it was. And I thought, it's amazing if you could find one thing. And I only found it because I, stayed up 3 days in a row with this guy. I came back to visit him later just to see how things were going a year later. And he said, my wife was scared to death you came. She said, last time this guy came into town, you didn't come home for 3 days. So that was a great find. I remember recovering AT&T once, and we couldn't recover the system because of some corruption. And I actually used _reset logs corruption equal to true, which is a parameter that you shouldn't think of doing lightly. Any underscore parameter is not a supported action. And it took probably from Friday night till Monday morning. The guy who worked there, after we tried every different thing you could try, he said, I'm going home to put on a suit. He said, because I'm probably going to get fired tomorrow because the system's not running. And then I got done. I did reset logs corruption equal true. I was able to start it, rebuild everything. And then at that moment, because we're in the machine room, like underground, literally a bug came out of the machine, crawled out from under it, and I captured it in a glass and I put it on his desk. I said, I found the bug. The system's running now. True story. But that's where I find stuff for the talks. It's where you're doing something in the middle of the night somewhere.
No, that's amazing. No, that's great to hear. And what from our many conference sessions that you presented and now the events you've been, what you consider was your best speaker experience and why?
Best speaker experience, I'll tell you. I was once working on one of my first talks was tuning tips. Now you're the expert. And I got tired of people, they had to call in the expert to tune their system, and they never told them how to tune it. This is back in the early 90s. So I said, I'm going to do a talk at the International Oracle User Group, and I'm going to say, this is how you can be the expert also. So I went through and I just said, being good at tuning, you have to be like an orchestra leader where you're the conductor and you have a world-class performance. But if somebody plays at the wrong time, it's not going to sound very good. So I went through step by step different things that I had figured out, that helped you tune things. And I got done. I came home from this session and my wife said, how was it? I said, I feel like it wasn't done. And then I did that talk again, kind of tweaked it a little more, put some more examples in. It was a little better. And I did it again. It was a little better. And I would tell her, it's just not right. And she goes, tell me when you're done. Tell me when it's actually done. And it probably was 8 or 9 years later, maybe even 10, that I finally got done with that session. So I feel like, even if you haven't written some talk you want to build, it may be the first version, but you're going to eventually get to that one. But that tuning talk was my favorite because of that. And I actually had a demonstration where I was showing the shared pool where it was water and you had a pitcher of water and I had like things that floated, some things sinked. Like I said, you pin things in the shared pool, it sinks. And some things you put too much in there and it overflows and things get pushed out. So I had a demonstration which poured water all over the table yet again. But it was fun.
And it's always, a lot of people don't know, but one example, my case, my presentation I'm going to present in one event is not finished to present until minutes later the session because adding things, changing, or I listen to somebody else being, that's something new that I forgot to put, and I was modifying, and they keep evolving always. I don't know if it's the same with you.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always one more thing you've got to put in. I've worked on a talk literally as the talk, I've got 5 minutes, and people have already coming in, sitting down, and I'm still changing slides, sometimes up to the last minute. I was going to say the other talk I did that I really liked, we once did, myself, Joe Trezzo, Brad Brown, and Tony Catalano, we did Batman and Robin, and we dressed up as Batman and Robin and the Riddler and the Joker. So that was pretty cool. And Commissioner Gordon.
No, that's nice. No, that I will have loved to be there and watch that. That should for sure is fun. And Rich, are you a dog or a cat person?
Well, actually, I have 2 dogs and I have 2 cats. So
Wow.
I have to say, you got to multiplex things, and you got to have both. It's like mirroring and multiplexing.
Equality. Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. Now, I know you probably this is a kind of a tricky question, a kind of interview question, but I always take it more on a personal level. How do you see yourself 5, 10 years from now? Any changes, new technologies, changing countries, cities, retiring? Who knows? Where you see Rich in 5, 10 years from now?
That's a very tough question. A good question, but very tough. I think I see myself in the same city, but I don't see myself ever retiring. I mean, maybe slow down a little, but retire, no. I mean, I still did an all-nighter not too long ago. I'm getting a little older for all-nighters, but I see myself in machine learning. I always hoped one day I could build machine learning well enough so that I could build a robot that emulates myself and goes and does the talk for me. So just a thought. But you got to really know your machine learning and robotics.
Yeah, that's good. And finally, I have a question. Is there anything else you would like to share with the APAC community or all the communities around the world? Any advice to the current members, students, they are thinking to start their career in this industry?
Sure. I mean, the main thing you have to remember in life is get good at what you do. It's very important to be great at what you do. It just brings a lot of things to you. But a lot of people I've met in business say, my goal is to make a lot of money. And I always find that people that want to make a lot of money, every now and then somebody does, but usually they don't. Other people say, hey, I wanted to make a difference, or I wanted to build something because there was a problem here. They want to solve some problem. You want to make a difference, you may make a lot of money as well. But making a difference is important. Also, stay inside your circle of influence. There's some things you can do, some things you can't do. Build bridges with other people in the community. When things look impossible, keep working on it. Just, that rock will wear away if you drop enough water on it. Build relationships, share that seed of wisdom that happened, in your life. Share it with, people that you think, really need it. I think the future is changing fast. I think things are so fast, you got to be careful and make sure you take a break every now and then. You have to relax. You can't work 24/7, even though they want to push you to that. When I look at things, I was going to say, I have my notes from last week, and I was going to say Happy Easter for those out there, but I was going to say, don't ever sacrifice something in the long term for something in the short term. Always focus on the long term. I like the acronym WIN. Spell it out. What does it spell? Win. But think of it as stand for what's important now. Try to think of yourself into the future. Picture yourself. Where do you want to be? And then say, what's important now? How am I going to get there? I wanted to know more about machine learning. What was important initially? I had to get autonomous database working probably 6-7 years ago. I had to learn what algorithms they had. I had to see what algorithms apply to which business problems. And I had to dig into the math to see what settings were very key. If the database is important, how do you get good at that? First of all, hopefully you're on 19C. I know not everybody is, but they're looking to go there. understand things like pluggable databases, understand things like in-memory, understand the security, understand how fast an Exadata can be. I think Oracle has a very complete solution that not any other company on earth has. And I think they're probably at least a decade ahead. I mean, with things like approximate query, auto machine learning, snapshot carousel, I can go on and on. Active data guard. But once you're done with 19C and you have that mastered, Oracle only had a preview version of 20C. They will not have 22C, just to let you know. I just tweeted on that. So the next main version is going to be 23C. So the long-term version coming out is going to be 23C after 19C. And the current version 21C, which is out, is an innovation release. So that'll only be supported for a couple of years. Keep that in mind. Whereas the long-term version is supported a long time. But I look at things, I mean, you got to go with where your passion is too. I mean, I like quantum computers also. I think they're coming. I think they're a little further out. When I look at machine learning, I really see artificial intelligence getting to a place where there's super general intelligence and super general intelligence and things like that, where it's going to become smarter than people and maybe become smarter than all people. Elon Musk, when he announced his numbers, he thought what they're doing with robotics is going to be even more impressive than what they do with things like autonomous driving and the cars that they built at Tesla. He believes that the new robots they have, and he just talked about it a lot today. You could look it up. But he said this is really, really coming fast. And I believe he is a person, if you emulate somebody, emulate somebody who can be innovative like you. I get inspiration from a lot of movies. Apollo 13, how to never give up on a problem, how to work the problem when you do have a problem. Expect a miracle to happen, and a lot of times you can help it to happen. I like the physical courage of a Cinderella man and the fortitude is strength of mind to endure pain or adversity with courage or character. I know Mahatma Gandhi said, happiness is when what you think and what you say and what you do are in harmony. And this is very similar to being very character driven, where you're thinking about it and the actions are there and it's becoming habits. These things are all in harmony. I think this is a very big key as well. I think you got to avoid some of the distractions of the world and really focus on where you think you can make an incredible difference. Because you know what? You only live life once, but if you live it right, once is enough. So any other questions to our great leader, Francisco?
Yep, I'm just checking. I want to let everybody know too, if you have any questions for Rich, please use the chat in YouTube or Facebook, and that way Rich will be able to see it. And yes, when you mentioned also about get some inspiration about movies, I remember one that I love it, Hidden Figures, the one talking about the human computers in the time of the NASA when the first mainframe from IBM came, and that was a very interesting movie that make me inspire to talk a lot about that and compare for the change challenges of the DBAs with the new autonomous environments coming with machine learning, AI, cloud computing, and that was the same when in that time the human computers was scared by losing their jobs because they were going to be replaced by a machine. They learned to take advantage and learn computer language to now put in place the business knowledge that they had about the NASA, the calculations, and transform that in a way the computer could understand, and then make the things really work for IBM because they were not able to make it that successful too. And that's basically something that is useful for anyone, DBAs now, and many other IT professionals.
No, that's great. And now that computer is in your pocket, isn't it? So you have all that power right now and more.
Can imagine you have a hard drive 1 megabytes and was so huge and so much. Now you have gigabytes, terabytes storage with any
Sure.
no problem at all.
And in the cloud, exabytes, not too
Okay, we
hard to
got the
get.
first question. Hello, Rich. Do
Yeah.
you read technical, non-technical? How many hours per do you read per week?
I think I'm reading all the time. Thanks, Mir. It's a great question. I'll tell you, I spend a lot of time reading not just technical and non-technical, but people that talk about those two and how the bridge together. A lot of the leaders, people like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Larry Ellison, they talk about how to leverage that technology in the world. And I think when you look at what you can do a lot of times, Larry Ellison is using machine learning to help take on cancer with the Ellison Institute. So him on the database side, but he's doing all that. So I'll read stuff about that. I know I read something the other day was amazing. It talked about how they reversed aging on skin cells 30 years back. Now it's not perfected, so you can't use it yet, but they've proved that yes, we can do that.
That's great. How we have another question from Meral Hill. How do you manage your time, work-life balance?
I think you have work, I think you have family, and I think you have hobbies. And I think to be successful, at least until you start to retire or slow down, I think you could do 2 out of 3 of those very, very well. And sometimes people that try to do all 3 start to do some not as good. So if you could make work, like I would look at work, machine learning is also a hobby. It's not just work for me. It's enjoyable for me. So now I don't need to go golfing every day. If I go golfing every day, maybe I don't have enough time for work or I don't have enough time for family. So I think you could do 2 out of 3 of these very well. Now you could do all 3. You still have to take time to relax and take a break from things. But you really can do 2 of them very well. And I think the ones you want to do is you want to do family and make sure you have a job you enjoy so that it's also, part of a hobby for you. And I think the amazing part of technology is, if we didn't do it, for pay, we probably would do it for free because we're driven by this. People in technology, they're not like other people. They don't operate the same way. The rest of the world looks at us technologists and they say, these guys are not normal. They're willing to take care of the database. They're willing to stay up all night and fix things. How is that possible? They really do have incredible physical and moral courage in the job and loyalty to getting things done correctly. I think these are things that really, I think technologists in the old days were, mainly engineers or they were inventors and things like that. But what I like about them is they're always making the world a better place.
That's good. No? And that's true. Is that's something very, very true. My wife always said that she thinks sometimes I'm a little bit autistic because the way I am, the way I focus sometime, and uh, it, like I always tell my kids when they tell me they want to work with IT, and I said, "Look, who work with IT is crazy. If it's not, will become because it's hard when we starting. I since I start working with that, I started using logic to everything, and with logic, you can solve any mathematics problem basically, and you can use that for everything in your life, and that's a little crazy part that I have myself too.
Absolutely. But the whole world doesn't always see it that way, but all of us do.
Fantastic. All right. Well, the Mira Hill is saying thank you for your answer
Sure.
and saying that basically anything else you would like to say, express, or share with the community, Rich?
Yeah, just make sure you know, time is precious. Your time is precious. Not everybody wants to make you think that your time is precious. They want to make you think their time is precious. but your time on this earth is very precious. You have a unique skill. If you walk throughout the world, every person you meet has something unique that they are great at. And they are different than any other person you will ever meet on planet Earth. So when you meet somebody, never forget, I am never going to meet somebody just like this person again. Sometimes you say, oh, that's good, because they're tough. Some people are tougher, but sometimes when people are tougher to meet, that means maybe you can offer some inspiration and help them along. But if you want to make a difference in the world, I like Goethe once said, if I treat people like they are, I might make them worse. But if I treat them like they ought to be, and what would be the best thing that they could do, they'll start to become that. They'll start to be that great person. So you always want to help them in that way. Not force, just help. Now, I think God gives everyone a great skill, and you just have to let that light shine. Don't let anyone say you can't do it. Just keep trying. Make an impact in the world.
Great words, and something amazing to everyone to reflect and learn from the great Rich Niemiec.
Well, thank you. I want to interview you. How about I interview you for one of these someday? I'll come up with some questions.
Let's see. How good. Always will be an honor.
Question number one: how did you break these ribs? What really happened? No, I'm kidding.
Very stupid. Just a very stupid thing. Just took my kids to do ice skating. I'm not good at skating. 20 minutes try to stand up. First time I felt was enough.
So there you go. This is what I said. You have to be good at work, be good at family. Ice skating, not as important. So that's okay.
Oh yes, me and winter games, we don't have a good relationship. No, fantastic. And saying that, I can see there's no more question coming from the chat. Thank you, everyone, for finally posting some questions in the chat, and we could test that functionality of the system. It works. Good. Thank you so much, Rich, for giving the time to show a little bit more of the person behind the professional to the Asia Pacific community and everyone around the world. More than ever, is an honor to have you here, listen to you, and hopefully we will be able to see each other in one conference around the world as everything come back to a acceptable normality again.
I'm sure. We're ready to run.
Fantastic. And saying that, please take care, be safe, everyone, and be tuned to the next talk show. If not wrong, will be in a couple more weeks, and we will have this time Sandesh Rao being the next guest of honor in our talk show. Thank you so much, Rich. Thank you so much, everyone.
I was going to say thank you, and I will say Sandesh Rao, one of the best speakers I have ever seen. I'll tell you, I just at the meetup last night, somebody said, I had a problem with Rack. Nobody could solve it. He said, I met Sandesh at a conference, and he said, do you have the problem? Do you have the laptop? Can you log in? It was this Rack problem. He said he solved the problem in 1 minute. It was done. Fixed it. He said, I thought I just talked to the smartest person in the world. He said, I'm so happy. So I wouldn't miss that one. That's a good one.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. Saying that, I'm just leaving, stopping the broadcast in 1 second. And thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
Thanks.